We are following the government advice fairly rigidly. We want, our main aim is to keep people safe. It's very troubling for me. It's difficult because many young people, you know, aren't affected by COVID when they get it. They're asymptomatic and they tend not to get very ill at all. So for me, it seems quite, it's a big sacrifice that you as young people are being asked to make. You know, I remember the college time of my life as being one of the happiest and one of the best in my life. And it was, the reason it was so enjoyable and so important in my development was because of the social life at college, you know, chatting to friends in the refectory, all playing the sports, going to the clubs and societies, all of those sorts of things. And it breaks my heart to see you not able to do those things for such a long period. You know, we've been in and out over a year now, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. And you know, there are stages of lockdown unlocking. We've gone through 2 of those stages already, and hence you're back in college, which is great. Good to see. It's just so great to see students around the place in college. I think from the 21st of May, a lot of students will have, you know, more or less finished by then, but we should then be able to have, for example, sit down table and chairs in the refectories, for example, which is a big step forward for me. And people will be able to socialise. Hopefully by that stage as well, there'll be a bit of relaxation on the face coverings. And then by June the 21st, according to the government's timetable and rules, all social distancing will come to an end. And we can hopefully be back to normal by then. So I think I'm probably anticipating a question for later, but I sincerely expect and hope that by September, for students starting in September, for those of you coming back to the college in September, we will be as back to normal as you know we can be. Whether it's completely back to normal as before, but it will be getting close to, I think, providing we don't have, you know, the unknown, another spike in infections and more lockdowns. But I'm really optimistic that the vaccination program and other measures will prevent that. I don't know what course you do or what your group is, but what we've said is that all 16 to 18-year-old and full-time students need to be back. So the majority of their program needs to be back. We are aware that there is still a little bit of blended learning, and by that we mean that you're in for what we've said is 16 to 18-year-old and full-time students need to be in for at least 50% of their program, and hopefully right up a lot more than that, and some students are up to 100%. Bear in mind that we still have the pandemic, and we've still got to try and minimize occupancy in the building so that we can have the distancing and all of those measures. The campus directors in each campus have made decisions about the proportion of lessons that are remote, and it does vary by course, and a lot of those decisions are made by how able the students are and sort of how they can learn autonomously and remotely. So and also on the subject matter. So if it's just solely a classroom-based type course, there is more scope to learn remotely, whereas if you need facilities like whether that's engineering or catering and hospitality, whatever it is, you need to be physically on the site. So they've been prioritized. So the ones that are less lucky, the ones where the courses have tended to remain remote, are higher education students that aren't practical. And that's just because we're not allowed to. The government have told us that they're not allowed to on-site until I think it's the 21st of May, unless there is a significant practical element to their course that they can't do remotely. And also adult students, courses that are predominantly for adults, where they, coming back to retrain, whatever it is, a lot of them where they can be are more remote as well, because both the government and us, we've prioritised the younger students because we think that they're more vulnerable, and it's just more important for 16 to 18-year-olds to have that social and aspect to your studies. That's part of growing up and learning, and the part of the college experience. You're absolutely right. It's a priority. Huge impacts on the mental health of people of all ages, particularly young people, because of the pandemic. The government have put in place a special commission to look at this, which we'll be part of, and they're talking about extra funding to give people catch-up lessons, but they tend to focus on the content that people have missed, like English and maths and things, rather than the impact it's had on people's mental health. But we as a college are recognising that. We're training our staff to be better at recognising the issues. But it's about well-being, isn't it? It's not just putting things right when they go wrong. It's about trying to change people's outlook on life, and encouraging them to look at what makes a healthy mind. And we're building that into some of the tutorial sessions, hopefully going forward, the pastoral sessions. We know that doing things like exercise, walking, being out in the fresh air, volunteering, having a purpose in life, all those things are great for mental health. And if we can sort of get students to first of all recognise that they have a responsibility to look after their own mental health and to do those sorts of things, as well as then support and give them the opportunities to do those sorts of things, and that can really help move this forward. We've got, for more extreme matters, and we know that is the case, we've got all of our effective safeguarding measures. So when we're really concerned about somebody's mental health, when they're talking about being really depressed, we can refer them on to, we can advise them to seek help themselves. We can refer them to counselling services, and when we're really concerned about them, we can refer them through the usual safeguarding. If they're young, if they're vulnerable and young, then we can use our normal safeguarding measures, which we would do at any time, not just during a pandemic. But what we're noticing is that we are having to do that more often for pandemic related issues and reasons. Hope that helps. Yeah, I'm aware of the fact that Harrogate has got a slightly different approach to the other campuses here, and I need to. My understanding that was just during lockdown and just during. So as we come back, we should be returning to normal. Certainly from September, we would ensure that the campus, the refectory at Harrogate, is open. I need to find out from Danny why that's not going to be he may have a plan to open it, from May the 21st or whatever, but I need to find out from him what his plans are. And I'll ask him if it's September that he says, then I'll ask him why it can't be opened from the 21st of May for students that will be around then. So I don't know the answer, but I will need to go and check. In terms of the unaffordable and unsustainable food, again, that shouldn't be the case, should it? There should be things like meal deals, and it is subsidised by the group. So, I don't think it should be out of line with what's on offer in the other refectories, which students will always raise issues about food. That's one of the things that often nobody's ever completely happy with, a bit like toilets. However, we have responded. So for example, in other campuses, we've got more vegetarian options, we've got halal options, we've got better labelling options, healthier options. So I'm hoping that we can do the same at Harrogate. Harrogate did have a different sort of history. It came from a different college group. It joined our group, so it had some sort of staff, dinner ladies, I suppose, dinner people, that perhaps did things differently, a bit more traditional, maybe. But it will be under the same management as the refectories in Leeds, Keighley. So hopefully that will change when it reopens. We do have lockers in some departments, and so, for example, in engineering, you would be expected to have things like hard hats sometimes, and boots, and tools, and things like that. And we recognise that the students can't necessarily come back and forth to college for them. So they do at Printworks campus. The engineering students do have lockers. How possible it is in other areas, I don't know. I mean, we simply haven't got the space in the college to give everybody a locker. But I mean, hello, Kai.
I mean, we could do with them at Beeston because our bags are just everywhere in the classroom. We have nowhere physically to put our bags at all, apart from on the floor, and it can cause trip hazards.
Yeah, I mean, and Beeston's another place where space is limited. We could do with more space. So yeah, it's something I haven't really considered before. So I know that we do have some. We can't have them everywhere, but we may be able to have more. Is the answer to that. So I don't think we've had too much pressure before about this. But if it is a real issue, then we can look at it on a department by department basis. Absolutely. And there may be, it doesn't just need to be lockers. There may be lockable cupboards that the teachers could put certain things like books in overnight to help students, so they don't have to carry things if that's an issue. There's probably other solutions, but it's something we haven't been asked to do much of as that I'm aware of. So you'd be amazed at what we can achieve when we all work together and put our minds to things. So we have been part of campaigns to try to get the government and the Department for Education to allow more flexibility on a binary approach to gender. Currently, all students have to declare to enrol that they only get 2 choices. And we're campaigning, and they're not budging, the government or the Department for Education, on this. But that doesn't mean we can't do an awful lot beyond that. That's just the enrolment form and enrolment. And we do want students to feel comfortable using their preferred pronouns. And some students, what we have to recognise as well, don't want to declare what they don't want to say I want to use these pronouns. So it's about giving people the choice. So I think we could all set good examples by doing it ourselves, if that would make people feel more comfortable about declaring theirs. And I don't know, I'm open to suggestions. It's something that we want to encourage, and we want people to feel comfortable, and we will consider anything that helps with that. So, sorry, that's probably the poorest answer I've given so far. So all I'm saying is that the college is committed to it, but I'm not quite sure what the question. The question is not here, are they, Steve?
No, they're not. No.
So.
I think it's come from feedback from.
Yeah, what makes people feel comfortable is them feeling that the college takes it seriously. So maybe if we had and I think we do have, a clear commitment to and public statements which say that we are very tolerant, and not was that probably the wrong word. We encourage people to to be themselves and to have their own identities. We can draw it we've got a really good equality and diversity team at the college. They are, second to none, I think, in the sector. So we can draw this to their attention about what they're planning to do, and they'd probably be able to give you a much better answer to me. The thing I can do as the principal is to just reassure people that we are absolutely committed to doing this, and then there are other people operationally that can make that happen. So what we'll do is we'll ask them the question and come back to you, as similar to the question about the canteen at Harrogate, I suppose. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's a really important issue. I mean, we've been through extraordinary times, a year of pandemic where you're not having that face-to-face contact, which 90% of communication would have happened previously. You'd see your teacher every day, you see your personal tutor, your course leader, your head of department, all those sorts of things, backed up by emails, hangout messages, website messages, intranet web messages. So not only we've had the pandemic, we've also then had a cyber attack which took out the student intranet. And I know that our communications team are on with rebuilding that. We've coped remarkably well with things like Google Hangouts. But I know that communication varies between courses, and this has come up before. So yeah, Katrina, what were you going to say?
Sorry, yeah, just to add from this question was asked to you before, and from last time it has improved, but it's not 100% transparent because, like I said before, we got a letter saying that we won't be going to college, but we also didn't know when we will be going back.
Yeah, so, well, I'm pleased it's better, but yeah, communications is one of those things that can always be even better. So yeah, we'll work hard on it. I think there's no reason why sports and activities can't be happening now. So do you know more about that, Steve, than me?
So it's the major challenge at the moment is from obviously the bubbles and kind of things happening across sort of students engaging with each other from different departments, different classes. So there's work going on to kind of offer by department level and by class level to offer activities now, obviously, as things start to reopen and things start to restart nationally. But there is still a kind of issue around kind of the students being able to engage with each other from different departments or different classes.
I mean, perhaps we're a bit slow there, Steve, because, I walk around the parks on a Sunday morning and the 11-a-side football's all back on park. And so if that can happen, there's no reason why our Wednesday afternoon sports activities couldn't, I don't think, because it's outdoors. I think it's considered to be relatively safe. So yeah, we perhaps need to speed up our response to that. But socializing, we want to encourage that from the 21st of May, I think it's fair to say. And to be honest, I think at the moment we are still being advised to discourage it and to limit it and to keep people apart, and which is a shame. But within bubbles, it's great, and people should carry on doing that. There's nothing stopping people when they having meeting in groups of 6 outside, as you know, within the rules. So it's sticking to the rules. It's looking at what is possible within the rules, and then being very aware of those dates and making sure that we're fast to change and open up and introduce more freedoms once we're allowed to on the dates that the government's laid out. In the meantime, we are looking at improving social spaces, and if you look around the campuses, that obviously depends on which campus you're in. So if you're in Park Lane, for example, there's a new coffee shop which is wonderful, which is in between A and B block, which people will be able to enjoy when they're back from the 20th. I think they can go and get a takeaway there now, just as you can in other refectories. But from the 21st, they'll be able to sit and have sandwiches and they do lovely paninis and things like that. It's more, it gives you a bit of choice in Park Lane. So you've got a choice between what's in the current refectory, but then you've got something that's a bit more like a, you know, the sort of cafe you'd go to. And it's a bit more affordable than the cafes that you could walk to in the Leeds city centre, which is good. We've got new campuses coming on board all the time because we're growing. So, for example, there's a new campus for ESOL students at North Street, which is wonderful. I had a tour around there. So some of your students will benefit from that. Beeston campus, Kai, I think is going to reopen on the 21st, I'm afraid. That's when they're all going to reopen in terms of sitting down. And by 21st, I mean 21st of May. So yeah, hopefully that covers that. But improving the social facilities all the time, and opening up as and when we're allowed to. So yeah, I mean, in previous years, obviously not last summer, but in other summers, there's always the ball, isn't there, Steve? Which is wonderful. And there's other events, end of term parties, and each department has their own, and trips to Alton Towers and things like that. And from this, I don't know, from the 21st of June, I don't see why some of those shouldn't happen. The trouble is, it's a bit difficult to plan now, because you could plan it and then, you know, the rates might go up again, and these 5-week windows that the governments are looking at are reviewed so it might be worth, if we wait till the 21st of June and see how that one goes, that particular reopening window, it might give us more certainty about planning an event. We may have to recognise that the events can't be as they normally were. They might need to be a bit more restrained, a bit more restricted. But yeah, I'd be interested in Steve's view on this, actually, as to whether we can have some of those usual events that the student union often and the student life team often used to organise.
Yeah, I think that from my perspective, obviously the challenge is the things that you've kind of raised in regards to knowing whether or not we'll be able to do them. And I think that obviously we've taken a sort of a cautious approach, I think, with the college, obviously, and kind of just reopening things and getting things restarted. And I think so it'll be obviously students being on campus to actually engage in some of those things, and sort of building that confidence, I think, for staff and students probably to access, because it's been such a long time since a lot of people have done any of those sorts of things. So there'll be a little bit of kind of confidence building, I think, needed for people to access for both staff and students, I think, in that regard. So, you know, we're really keen to get more things up and running and engagement there. So it's what we do as a department. So we're really keen to have more of that happening across the college. I think it's, yeah. So go on.
Just to add to that, it would be like a really nice close to the end of the academic year, especially for students that it will be their last year at campus. So at least they can have a good memory, and maybe see their teachers and their friends in person before they go on.
I think that's a good point, isn't it, Steve? We should try and do something, even if it's not the normal nightclub. We even if we encouraged some picnics in the open air, or just little things like that, might be better than nothing.
Yeah, I think we were, from talking to Kat about this before the meeting, I think it was potentially at a department level or campus level to try and do something to kind of create that. So that's something we can definitely pick up with the campus directors and heads of departments around.
I mean, we could put it on a meeting, Steve, if you wanted to come and talk to the HODs or the campus directors at one of the DELT meetings or HODs meetings. I think that's a great topic of a subject for a meeting. Let's do it.
Yeah, okay, brilliant.
Yeah. I hope so. All indications are yes. So I think if things go as they are and have been, I can see no reason why that wouldn't be the case, other than the unknown, such as new variants coming in that vaccines don't work against, and all of those things that me as an optimist think won't happen. I don't think that'll happen. I think the vaccine will work. What we need people to do, though, and I think the student union and other people have been really good on this, you've helped us get those public health messages out about the importance of testing. You know, we tested you all before you came back to college. Hopefully most of you got 3 tests, and some of you will have had the packets of tests to do tests at home. You know, we're all used to it. You know, I'm used to making myself gag every Sunday night, and but it's all good, and it has picked up some. You know, we had 30 odd positive identifications across the colleges, where those were asymptomatic teenagers mostly, who wouldn't have known that they were ever ill, because teenagers tend not to get ill with this on the whole. But they would have passed it on to lots of other people, but because they knew about it, they didn't pass it on. So we're breaking those chains of infection, and we need you to carry on doing that. So we all have a role to play in this. And if you're 18, and some of you are, and some of you will be, then when it's your turn, get the vaccine. Don't not get the vaccine, because that's people not getting the vaccine is what will hold us back. We'll risk raises in infection and third waves. That will slow down the reopening of society. I'm lucky enough to have my first vaccine because I'm old, and you know, I really would encourage you to do that, and encourage your friends. There's lots of myths out there and false news and, you know, a load of rubbish basically about the dangers of vaccines, most of which aren't true. So please do it yourself and encourage your friends to get vaccinated when you can. We've covered the fact that we really hope to get back to normal in September, and to have more freedoms before then, you know, hopefully end of term events, picnics, that sort of thing. But for the college as a whole, next year we've got an ambitious property strategy. So we're refurbishing parts of the campus, parts of the college. We want to do what I said before about improving the facilities. We've got new courses coming in place, which hopefully will attract new students, but also some of you may be able to progress to, you know, in the future. So T levels are new. We're getting pushed by the government, rightly I think, to provide courses not just in courses that students want to do and choose, but we're being asked to encourage you and students to do courses that the country needs, that there's a skill shortage in them. So for example, the Leeds City region has lots and lots of very highly paid vacancies in computer coding. So we need to encourage more students to go into networking, computer coding. So my hope is that we can increase those courses. You know, we can double the amount of students that do those courses. We can give more choice to students about what courses they do. I hope that all that work we're doing on mental health pays dividends, and that students, as they come back after the pandemic, can be happier and healthier, and their well-being be better. I just want to see students back learning and having fun, if I'm going to summarize it.